let's implement get. So first things first, let's define get, accepts an index, and we're going to check for our edge case or the error if index is negative, that's not good, we can't find that, or index is greater than or equal to this dot length. So we can't have it be out of bounds on either side. And again, we can't have it equal to the length because the highest index, just like an array, is always one less than the length. If that's the case, return, what I say, null, undefined, false. It doesn't really matter to me. Just return something bad, something negative. Okay, otherwise, what we need to do now is let's just start by implementing the left part. So we start at the head, just like we did with singly linked list, and just do .next. We're going to have to do that at some point. So let's just start there. So I'll make a variable called count and start it at 0. And then I'm going to make another variable called current and set that to be the head. Okay? And then I'm just going to do while count is not equal to index. So we're going to start with count at 0, and we're going to add one. Well, we're going to do current equals current.next to traverse the list. Hopefully this sort of approach is review at this point. And then we'll add one to count, count plus plus. So we start at, let's say we're looking for index of 2. Count starts at 0, current is head, or this dot head. Then we check, is count equal to index? It's not. So current now is equal to the head dot next, and we add one to count. And we keep going until we hit whatever's at index 2, Hermione. And then once we've found that item, we just need to return current at the end. So this is the unoptimized version. But let's just make sure it works. See if I have any errors in this. Make this a little bit larger. Let's push on a couple other things. Let's just push on last, and then I'll do actually last. Okay, so if we look at list, it has 5 things. I shouldn't be able to do get of -1 or of 10 or even 5. But if I did get of, let's say 3, index of 3, it gives me last. If I do index of 4, it gives me actually last. Index of 0, Harry, 1 is Ron, and 2 is Hermione. 1 second, I have to yell at my cat. Hey, stop it. Come on, girls. They're destroying my furniture. Okay, so that's great. That works. We're going to use a lot of this logic, but now we also want to do the same thing. We want to start at the end and work towards the middle. And we're going to do it based off of where the index is in that list, how high or low that index is. So we'll go back to the pseudocode now and check if the index is less than or equal to half the length of the list. So we're going to do this approach right here. If index, so I'm going to write this out, if index is less than or equal to, and the equals part doesn't, you could do it on the other one, whichever way you'd prefer to do it, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to say if the index is less than or equal to this dot length, divide by 2. If that's the case, we're going to do all of this. And we'll refactor this in a bit. There's going to be a little duplication. Otherwise, that means we're going to start at the end of the list. So we're going to start with a count variable equal to this dot length minus 1. For example, if our list looks like this, our length is 10, our last item is index of 9. So we're going to start with count at 9 and subtract 1 each time. So we're actually going to write the same sort of loop. We're just going to do, oh, well, I need to do current as well. Var current equals this dot tail. We're starting at the end. While count is not equal to index, what are we going to do? We're going to say current equals current dot previous. We're going to step backwards, and then we're going to do count minus minus. Subtract 1 from count. And then at the end, return current. Hey, stop it. Okay, I'm back. So let's add a little test in here, or let's just do a console.log to say working from beginning. I hate typing the word beginning. Let's say working from start. And then in the else, we'll do working from end. And let's see which one runs. And then we'll reduce some of the duplication. Okay, so we have list that has 3 things in it. Let's push in 300, 400, 500, and 600. Okay, so length is 7. If I do a list.get of 0, it says working from start. if I do a list.get of, let's say 5, it does working from end. And if I do, what is 6? That's our last thing in there, right? There's no index of 7, right? So it looks like it's working. It says that it's working from end. We could, you could create a variable to count how many times the loop actually runs if you wanted to really test it out, but we can just trust that this works. We've added a little bit of logic to check if we're closer to the beginning of the list or the end, and that changes where we're working from. Now, a tiny change, first of all, we can return current afterwards, so we don't need to duplicate that. So let's move that outside of the conditional and just put it afterwards. It happens for either one, however you say that. We also have, let's see, we can get rid of those console.logs now. We have count and current are both being declared. This is fine. I would probably do this personally. Do var count and current and then just update them. But it doesn't really matter, honestly. We still have to have these lines that are duplicated here. But overall, I'm happy with how this looks, how it's working. If you have a better refactor, absolutely there are other ways of doing this, or of rewriting this where we don't have so much. This logic is very, very similar except for the actual operation that we're doing inside of there, but this loop is the same, right? We're setting current, we're setting count. There are ways, slightly more complicated, of slimming this down, but this is fine. Absolutely, it works. Let's just verify it one more time that it works. So we've got our list. Let's do list.get -1. Shouldn't work. Let's do list.get 0. It works. 1, 2, nope, I didn't type a number. And then 3 shouldn't work. Looks good. It's working. I think that's all that there is.